The DNA from the cigarette bud matched that of Schlobem, whose DNA has been added to the National CODIS database, which he was convicted in Arizona. But while this placed Schlobem at the crime scene, officials do not have any other evidence to prove that he was in the park when Matson was K-lied. What's up, everybody? It's Shell down here with another quick news. This is a via the Independent. Cops say they now know who slaughtered a 39-year-old mother of seven in 2003, but they cannot charge the suspect. All right, let's get into this. A suspect has been identified in the slaughter of a 2003 slaughter of Tamara or Tammy Matson, but he cannot be prosecuted because he now suffers from advanced dementia. Island County authorities in Washington State recently announced that investigators believe Carl D. Schlobem, 69, is the one who K-lied Matson 2 decades ago. Schlobem is currently serving a sentence of life without parole in Arizona for a 2005 slaughter. Oh, that's just what he do, huh? Matson, a 39-year-old mother of seven, was found dead on December 9th, 2003 at Kamana Island State Park, according to the Island County Sheriff's Office. For nearly 6 years, detectives pursued leads and interviewed multiple acquaintances, but they kept running into dead ends, and the case went cold. DNA technology was limited at the time, but then in summer of 2009, the Washington State Patrol crime lab was able to develop DNA profiles from minute amounts of human biological material, according to the release issued jointly by Island County prosecutor Greg Banks and Island County Sheriff's Rick Felici. Felici? Well, that's what we're going to go with. A DNA profile was then developed from cellular material found on a cigarette butt that was found in the parking lot near Matson's body. The DNA from the cigarette butt matched that of Schlobem, whose DNA has been added to the National CODIS database when he was convicted in Arizona. But while this placed Schlobem at the crime scene, officials do not have any other evidence to prove that he was in the park when Matson was K-lied. A detective continued their investigation into Slobum and tried to learn everything they could about him and his connection to Matson, while ruling out other individuals as potential suspects whose DNA was also found in the area. In 2019, former detective, now Lieutenant Sean Warwick, and Detective Ed Wallace interviewed Schlobum in the Arizona prison, but he refused to answer questions. The Big C started just months later, and for over a year, the investigation was stalled. In April 2021, Schlobel wrote a letter to Island County detective stating he had information about Matson's death and that in exchange for a long list of demands, he would provide information about her slaughter. The hell? Um, quote, of all his crazy demands, the only one I considered was to allow him to spend the rest of his life in a Washington prison if he turned out to be the slaughterer and pleaded guilty, Banks said, according to the release. Banks ultimately arranged for a free talk with Schlobel, which they could question him under a temporary grant of immunity. The hell? Okay, quote, without the confession, we were stuck, Banks said. This allowed him to speak candidly and allowed us to verify that he was the K liar before he would negotiate any kind of deal, end quote. After the interview, the detectives were confident that they had Matson's K liar. Quote, quote, he knew things that only the K liar and detectives knew. End quote. Detective Wallace said, adding, the Schlobum had filled in gaps and explained his motive that he had K lied Matson over a dispute about a drug deal. The release stated Schlobum agreed that once prison transfer arrangements were finalized with Arizona and Washington Departments of Corrections, he would sign a sworn confession and that and then be charged in Island County with premeditated slaughter in the first degree and kidnapping in the second in the first degree. By the plan, but the plan went awry when detectives could not agree to a deal allowing Schlobum to serve his sentence in Washington rather than being transferred back to Arizona after pleading guilty. At the time, the Department of Corrections were releasing prisoners who were most at risk from Big C. Without a guarantee that he would stay in Washington, Schlobum would not sign the confession. And without Schlobum's confession, there was no proof he was the slaughterer, and he could not be charged. The release stated. Then in 2024, Banks tried to rekindle negotiations with Schlobum, but his attempts to contact him were met with silence. A family member of the suspect reached out to Banks in October 2024 and informed him that Schlobum had suffered a series of debilitating strokes and had advanced dementia. She doubted Schlobum could read or understand the content of the letters that Banks had been sending. Blah, blah, blah. 2 months later, officials in Arizona confirmed Schlobin was suffering from advanced dementia and that he is confined to a special needs unit due to his need for round the clock care and monitoring. Banks said it was frustrating that he could not make a legal record for Schlobum's crimes, but at least he and detectives were able to give some measure of closure to Matson's family and know that he would spend the rest of his life in prison. If you know anything about this or heard anything, just let me know in the comments below. Take care. Hey, friends. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And let me know down in the comments if you heard of this story and your opinions. So be safe and bye bye.